Welcome to the Spot On Insurance podcast, brought to you by Insurance Licensing Services of America, ILSA. This is Ted Tavares.
And this is Arlene Tavares coming to you from gorgeous Puerto Rico. Today, we'll be inviting our ILSA experts to share their knowledge.
But before we get started, don't forget to click on the subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode. And now here's our host, Doug Foresta.
This is your host, Doug Foresta. I want to remind you, if you have not done so already, go ahead and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes to make sure you don't miss any episodes and you'll get new ones as they're released. Today, my guests are two members of the ILSA team, Sabrina Slater, Corporates and Annuals Manager, and Tameika Johnson, the Corporates and Annuals Supervisor. And Tameika and Sabrina, welcome.
Good morning, Doug. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Doug.
Thanks. So our topic today is why it's important to update corporate structure, officer, and share information. So my first question for you is that why is it important to update corporate structure, officer, and share information?
I'll take that. This is Sabrina Slater. Basically, in a nutshell, this will help you to avoid timely delays, incorrect information being submitted on your corporate tax returns and your annual returns. It'll also help you avoid rejections or filings, and it'll also avoid additional penalty or amendment fees should a report need to be corrected or amended.
Thank you, Sabrina. So, Tameika, my next question is for you, and that is, what are the main different types of organizational structure? Can you speak to that?
Well, the main types are pretty much, are you a corporation or are you a partnership? And under a partnership, you can be an LLC, which is a limited liability company, an LP, a limited partnership, or an LLP, a limited liability partnership. So those are your main type of how you may register as far as like corporate structure.
And how does that differ from federal filing structure?
Well, when we ask our clients about their federal filing structure, we're asking basically how do you file with the federal government, your federal tax return. So whether or not you file as a C corporation, a Form 1120, an S corporation, a Form 1120S. If you're an LLC, you can elect to file as a partnership, a C corporation, or as an S corporation. So for your tax preparer, we would really need to know if you're an LLC, if you elect to file as a C corp, because it's a different set of rules, different tax fees that may be due. So you may just end up answering the question that you're an LLC, but you have to tell us how you file federally. And also, if you're a nonprofit or if you're a disregarded entity, that's something else that you have to let us know.
Thank you so much. And my next question is, so how can this affect my filings then? Well,
basically, the forms that we use and the fees that may be due, that depends on how you, for your corporate tax side, it depends on how you file with the federal government. So that's information that we would definitely need. On the annual return side, it's more of an issue of your corporate structure, whether or not you're a corporation or if you're registered as a partnership, that would determine the filings that we do with the Secretary of State.
And then related to that, I know is the question about calendar year, fiscal year, right? Can you say a little bit about the difference between calendar year and fiscal year?
Yes, if you're a calendar year filer, basically that means you close your books on December 31st. Any other date besides December 31st is what we call fiscal year. So basically, that's how we determine your due dates for when your returns are due. In some cases, there are some annual returns that are also due based on the fiscal year, not all of them, but there are some. So we definitely need to know when you close your books.
So thank you, Tameika. Sabrina, maybe you could take the next question, which is about the different types of titles. Can you say a little bit about the different types of titles that you need and what the differences are between those?
Sure. We can start off with the S and C corporations. You will see titles such as president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. Other major titles that you would see with corporations are principals and directors. These are the ones that have the decision-making authority within the business. For limited liability companies, you will typically see titles such as members, managers, and managing members and managers. A member is an owner of the LLC, and it's similar to a stockholder of a corporation. A manager is a person chosen by the members to manage the limited liability company, and it's similar to a director or a corporation. A manager can also be a member if they choose to. In limited partnerships, you have at least one general partner who makes the business decisions and is personally liable for the business debt. And the other one is a limited partner who invests money and has little control over the business. A limited liability partnership is similar to a limited partnership, but they have no general partners. All the owners have limited personal liability for the business debt in a general partnership.
And how important is it to have 100% ownership?
It's really important to know who your owners, officers, and directors are, as this information is what's required to be entered on primarily the annual returns, but that information is also required to be listed on the corporate tax returns as well. Some of the basic information that you are required to fill out for each officer, it could be the business or the individual's name, their title, the date they took office, their Social Security number or tax ID, whichever is applicable, their business address, business phone number, and then the percentage of the ownership that they own. If for any reason the entity is owned by another entity, some states, not all, they may require that you list each officer of that entity as well. So it just depends on the state's requirements if we need that additional information, but primarily that basic information I mentioned earlier is what we'll need.
Thank you very much. Spot on Insurance is sponsored by ILSA, Insurance Licensing Services of America, America's premier licensing and regulatory compliance experts. To learn more about ILSA and the services they provide, visit ilsainc.com. Let's switch gears for a moment and talk about shares. And can you say a little bit about what shares are, and also what information would you need from me as a client about my shares?
Sure. Shares are basically that's just the ownership within the company. It's also known as the shareholders of the company. If you're not sure who that is, you can find this information on your original certificate of authority that was filed in your domicile state. Basically, that's the information that you can find out when you went and first established your business. So you can look there. Some of the additional information that you'll need, in most cases, this only applies to corporations, as you won't need it for limited liability companies. They don't have share information. But some additional information that you would see are terms like class and series and par value. So I'll just start off with class. Class it's the type of stock the company has taken out, and common or preferred are the most common that you see when dealing with those. You may also see additional information regarding the type of series, which could be Series A or Series B. Another term you might see is par value. Par value, it's the value of each share within the entity. Some have no par value, some only have a penny, some have $1. It just all depends on what you established when you first set up your company. And then a few more terms that you might see are authorized shares or issued shares. Authorized shares, it's how many shares the entity is authorized to sell, and issued shares is the amount of stock that was actually sold. So those are just a few terms that you'd see when dealing with shares information.
And again, the reason that you would need that share information from a client is, can you say a bit more about that? Why it's important for me as a client to be giving you that share information?
It's important to share and to know that information. If we don't have the correct information up front, say you've changed your share information, entities do that all the time. If we don't know about that and we're submitting what you had previously submitted to us, it's just a whirlwind effect. It's better just to make sure that what you give us is the most up-to-date information, so that we're not having to go back and amend the reports, or typically you could be facing some penalties if you submit the wrong information. So we want to make sure that we have that correct information up front.
Well, thank you. This is great stuff to think about. Again, I want to make sure, if people are listening and they say, boy, I could really use some help with this, how can they get a hold of you, Sabrina, you, Tameika, and learn more about how they could get some help with their compliance issues?
You can reach out to either one of us. This is Sabrina Slater. My contact information, it's sslater@ilsainc.com. That's my email address. And my direct phone number, it's 254-729-6109. And I will let Tameika give her contact information.
Hi, my email address is tjohnson@ilsainc.com. My phone number is 254-729-6119. And also, I would suggest our website as well. There's a lot of information on there and guides, so that's a good place to go and look.
So again, we've been talking to Tameika Johnson, the Annuals and Corporate Supervisor, as well as Sabrina Slater, the Annuals and Corporate Manager for ILSA. Thank you, Tameika and Sabrina. I really appreciate it. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Direct your podcast questions to iask@soyteam.com. Share this podcast with your friends and remember to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode.
As always, thanks for joining us. And please remember, we'll be answering this week's podcast questions at Spot On Insurance Facebook Live, Fridays at 11 a.m. Eastern.